My name is Michelle Parry Slater. I work for a company called Santa Fe Group, and I've been invited here today by Fuse Universal to talk to you about our learning journey, and I am really excited about it. So I hope that by the end of this half an hour you're also very excited about it as well. Excellent. Okay, so I've got a sense of most of you are sort of an L&D function or a learning function. Well, that's good, because I'm going to talk to you about our learning journey, so hopefully it'll be relevant to you. I've entitled our talk Moving Away from Injection Education. Now, it's a sort of term I use to think about old school business learning, where we would go on a course, where we would go and have a workshop, and you would go and be cured. There you go, sir, I'm just curing you now with your injection of education. Go away, back and do your day job. But where's the 3, the 6, the 9-month follow-up? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we've moved away, and we now have this platform. It's a Fuse platform. If you're not familiar with what a Fuse platform is, go and speak to the guys at the very, very pink stand that you would have seen on your way in. This platform is learning, it's formal, it's informal, it blends 70-20-10, all of these things. It's fantastic. We love it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it later on. Okay, so what are we and where are we and what do we do? I mentioned that I work for Santa Fe Group. Santa Fe Group is a relocation company. We've got a global presence, and we move people on behalf of their corporates. So if, for example, you have an assignee who might be moving from New York to Paris, so they may be moving for a 3-year assignment to Paris, the first time they've been out of the US, we would deal with everything to do with that. So we would sort out their immigration, we would sort out their home search, we would sort out schooling for their children, we would sort out the packing of their boxes and putting them on one of our trucks and ships and sending them over the ocean. That's what we do, that's global relocation. Anyone here in the mobility function? It's not really the conference for you, is it? So that's why you're not here. My role within the company is to train our staff to do that job. So that's kind of where my background is in relocation management, and how I sort of got into learning and development was I was always the person who, oh, Michelle, she knows about teaching and stuff, sit next to her. So when the new person started, I was the sort of, plonk with the new person. And that's fine when I worked in an office of 10 people. I now work in a company of 3,000 people. It's not a scalable option. We previously in the company had a really good academy. I'm the academy manager. Prior to my tenure, we would run 2 workshops for 5 days, twice a year. Okay, so we would run sort of a European workshop where all of the people from Europe would come into London or into Frankfurt, and we would train them everything that they would need to know in order to do their day jobs. Now, potentially they could have been in the company for 5.5 months before they've had any formal training. Does this sort of sound familiar? Are people nodding around the room going, this is what we do too? We do a workshop environment, fantastic workshops, don't get me wrong, they're really engaging and you really get to know your colleagues and all of that good stuff, and that stuff still carries on. But then what do you do constantly? I'll come back to it. What do you do after the workshop? What do you do at the 3, 6, 9-month follow-ups? Are there follow-ups? Well, we thought it doesn't work this way anymore, we needed to change it. So we tried changing it in 2012. And how we tried changing it is this way, putting me in all of the different locations. So my passport, battered passport. I had 14 weeks where for 10 of those 14 weeks I was out of the country training on a new process in a different location every week. It got to Christmas and my 5-year-old daughter said to me, Mummy, where are you going this week? And I said, well, darling, it's Christmas. Of course I'm not going anywhere. And she said, in all seriousness, Mummy, did you lose your job? And of course she thinks that that's my job. I take my passport, I take my training, and I go to the people. It's, again, not a scalable model. My job moved from a European role to a global role. No. It just isn't possible. Hands up then, you L&D people who recognize my tale of woe of spending most of your life in an airport environment. It's a familiar tale, isn't it? Well, it's not a scalable model, so we needed to look for a different solution. I really love the traveling, don't get me wrong, but we have a severe lack of consistency with that. So the person that got me down here in Spain, lovely, beautiful day, would have got a different Michelle than the person that got me up in Russia. Freezing, cold, nearly Christmas, did I really want to be there? You can't be consistent Also, you've got different learners in the room. When you think about a workshop environment, that workshop will run depending on who you've got in the space. Now, you guys, lovely, lovely audience, lots of L&D people here, and another day I might get a load of tech people. So you have to tailor what you're talking about to actually that environment. And again, it's a lack of consistency, and it's not fair on the learner. Do they get really cheerful, up for it, Michelle? Or do they get, oh, I'm a bit jaded, I've trotted this out 14 times before, I can't quite remember, did I say that yet? I'm not really sure. So workshops, they have their place. They are really important. And as the Academy, we still run those workshops, but we have to have something more. We have to have something at point of need. Okay. These are all the things that I'm talking about when we think about injection education. This familiar tale to us about how we've got to travel, how we've got to run different styles of learning in order to get to point of need. Now, what it occurred to me was when I was sitting in these airports and I'm kind of flicking through my phone and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to Russia. Don't know anything about Russia. What do I do in that circumstance? What would you do? Google it, of course. Google it. And what does Google tell you? It tells you, oh, here's a YouTube video about Russia. It tells you, here is a document about, welcome to Russia document. Here is a map of Russia. You get all of this stuff off the internet. And we do this in our private lives every day. We don't have injection education in our private lives. We don't have a workshop to go to learn about the next country that we're traveling to, or I've never been camping before. My kids wanted to go camping for the first time. Well, son, I've never been camping. I don't know how to put up a tent. Don't worry, mummy. What did he say? Google it. You're also quiet. Goodness me. So yes, we Googled it and we went camping. That's what we do in our private life. It's very natural to us. And we get that very quickly. Maybe it is it's an injection, but it's a very quick injection. It's not this kind of, I'm cured because I've been to a workshop style. And as a consequence of that, we need to recognize that we need to marry that over into our business environment, because that's how learners learn. That's how your staff that work with you learn in their private life, and we are way behind in the companies that we work for, in the training that we're giving. We need to move on. We need to mirror that ideal around point of need, instant access, because that's what people want. That's how people learn nowadays. And we therefore needed to move away. So is anyone on this journey with me? Do you recognize this is what you need to do? Quick hands up if this is what you guys need to do. You're in the right session then, aren't you? Okay, so what did we do? What did we do differently? Well, the first thing we did differently was we recognized that this is actually not our learners. This is what the managers might think our learners are. Oh, they don't know anything. They need to go on a course. They need to go on a workshop. They don't have a clue. Well, that's just not true. They actually have a lot of clues about a lot of things. They're the front line of the business. They know their jobs inside out. Okay, they are the experts. I've been in relocation management for 14 years, but do I know everything there is to know about moving a horse from Paris to New York? Do I know everything there is to know about packing a truck? No, of course I don't, but I know a person that does. They're not all like this, but the managers, not just in our company, but in business in general, the managers think they're clueless. So they think that you really need to send them to the workshop for the good biscuits. Remember those? For the fiddle toys, for the networking. And those things are valid, don't get me wrong, we still need to do that. But I have to say, it is not all about the good biscuits. It's not all about injection education. It needs to be more. You need to think about the learners beyond that workshop. Okay? We need to evolve. We evolved in the academy. We moved on. We had to. We had to take it into a virtual space. As I said earlier, one of me, 3,000 of them. My passport couldn't take it anymore. So what did we do? Well, we looked to a model which I'm sure is very familiar to a lot of you. Anyone else running a 70-20-10 model? A few nods. Anyone thinking about it? Anyone wondering what it is? Well, we looked to the guru, Charles Jennings, and we looked at how we could continue those learning conversations. Because as I say, the workshops are fantastic, but we needed those conversations to continue. It wasn't just about the social aspect and the meeting your colleagues, it was about actually going, okay, I need to actually have a conversation with that colleague and giving them a way of doing that outside of that workshop environment. We didn't really think 70-20-10 worked well in terms of a global audience. Somebody in China, would they understand 70-20-10? Somebody in Perth in Australia, somebody in Paris. It's just numbers. So we coined a phrase called learn, share and grow. Learn, share and grow really is 70-20-10 just in words. So the learn element is you can learn formally, you can learn informally. The share element is when you learn something, tell someone about it. When you go to a workshop, share it. When you attend one of our conferences, then you actually need to come back and share that with your office. Okay, when you read a fantastic article on the train on the way in using the Fuse platform, then shout about it, share it with your community. And then of course the grow element is a personal growth, where we're trying to put learning back to the learners. Learning in the heart of the business, but the heart of the business is our employees, our learners. And so that grow element is that individual growth, but it's also then the team growth, and then of course the company growth. So that's why we coined learn, share and grow, really to explain 70-20-10 in words. That was our first step. So I just want to take a moment then. If that's our journey and that was our first step, how about you guys? You know, a few of you put your hands up and recognize the story I was telling you around our need to move away from workshops. Why do you guys need to move away from that sort of injection of education environment? I did warn you earlier that you weren't just going to sit there. Come on, help me out. Cost. Number one, cost. Yes, anyone else? Any other ideas? Remote teams, absolutely. Yes, I work with people who are in Hong Kong and Melbourne. It's just impossible to do it if you don't do it on an online space. Yeah, any other ideas? Why move away from that workshop type of, that's all we offer? Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're so quiet. All these L&D professionals in the room, you're not normally quiet. Okay, well, I'll give you a few ideas. In case you were feeling shy, which clearly you are, consistency was a big one that we needed. Cost, as you mentioned, 100 points to the lady in the second row there. The effectiveness of the learning. We've talked a little bit about how we get that injection, but what happens later on. Global presence, all of these ideas really. But for me, the one that was the most important thing was in order to put learning back at the heart of the company, to sort of put learning and business, work is learning, learning is work, all of those type of new modern ideas, it's about conversations. So we really needed to encourage great conversations and to continue great conversations. So we looked to Fuse. Why Fuse? Well, we slept around this show last year, Catherine and I, my boss, and we were looking and talking to people about, we need to remove injection education, we need to continue great learning conversations, what can you offer us? And people were sort of talking to us about what they could offer us, but when we spoke to Fuse, we really understood. They absolutely got it. We were like this from day one. So why then? Why not any of the others? Well, three main reasons that we'll just talk about for the rest of our time today. Conversations and consistency, leading edge technology, and then the team themselves. So I'm just going to take, in no particular order, but let's look at conversations. As I mentioned, learning for me, learning and development is all about the great conversations. It's about putting experts with people that need to have knowledge. It's about people who need to have knowledge, reflecting on that, discussing that, taking it further, having a personal growth in that. You know, trainers, as trainers, we plant the seed, but it's up to the learners to actually nurture that seed. As trainers, we need to perhaps remind them to nurture it. Keep watering those plants, guys, because they'll forget. Things get in the way. Life's busy. Are they going to be thinking about learning on a daily basis? So that's really our role, is to keep nurturing, help them nurture for themselves. But that's why we need great conversations. That's why we need to continue this sort of idea of learning. So with Fuse, what we have the ability to do is our experts can reach out, but also the control sits with the learners. The learners can actually ask. They can seek information in one place. Fuse for us is a knowledge bank where they can all go and they can all help each other. Now we were hoping that that we would sort of naturally evolve some sort of organic process where all of our experts would appear. We never imagined that that could be a reality, and it is a reality. So take, for example, quite recently, we had a question posed on the platform by somebody in Marseille. They didn't have the answer. They'd looked for it on the platform, they'd looked for it on Fuse, and they couldn't find the answer, so they had the ability to ask a question. The question was answered initially by a colleague who's in Paris. Those guys know each other. She probably could have rang up. But it means that having that question in an open space, everyone can contribute. So out of nowhere came a guy who actually works in our Japan office, but he works from home in Hawaii, lucky him, and he answered the question as well. Now, would the person in Marseille ever have known about the person in Hawaii if we did not have learning and conversation in the same space? So I would argue no, there was no way that they would have known about each other. And for me, that really brought it home that we made the right decision, and that's why Fuse. Another reason, as I've mentioned, me and 3,000 of them. It's just an impossible equation. So if you are on a smaller and smaller budget, as all as our learning and development budgets are getting squeezed, how do you get you, on a good day, all of the time, out to all of the learners? And in that way, we can use Fuse, that I can record a screencast and it gets sent out to everybody. That's me on a good day everywhere. And of course, it's not just me. It's our experts in Hawaii. It's our experts in Paris. It's our experts everywhere. And they can all share that out. So it means that the equation isn't just one of me and 3,000 of them. It's actually 3,000 of them and 3,000 of them. Peer-to-peer learning goes on all of the time. That's how people learn. They ask the person next to them, they ask the person sitting opposite them, and this way just formalizes it and allows people sitting miles and miles apart to actually have that peer-to-peer interaction. So again, that's why for us, Fuse fitted the bill. There's a third element, and that's the cultural element. We, as a company, we're 3 companies that have come together as one. These are our 3 regional brands. So Interdine sits within the Europe area, and Santa Fe Relocation Services in Asia, and then Ridgeway's down in Australia. If any of you have ever relocated to Australia, you'll generally have come across Ridgeway's. Now, what can Ridgeway's offer to Interdine? We're geographically diverse, we've worked with them for years, but we came together as one company under the brand of Santa Fe Group. There was no reason for them to talk to each other. It was business as usual when we came together. And as a consequence of that, what we needed to do was give them a platform where we could get the expertise from the different locations and create our own company culture. So we started breathing and living and working and thinking as one company. There are not a lot of LMS platforms out there that could help us with that. We wanted to be able to actually get the expertise from around the regions and put it into one space so that anyone in those regions could pull it. But there's also that sort of social element, that cultural element, getting to know each other. So Fuse offers us that with a profile page, so each individual has a window to the company. Now, somebody sitting, for example, in, I don't know, the Moscow office, picking on Moscow today, sorry about that, Moscow. Somebody sitting in the Moscow office, why would they ever have a reason to chat to somebody in the Perth office? You know, it's not a usual relocation, Moscow to Perth, but they do the same job. They've got their own challenges. Now they can feel a lot more supported because they know about each other, they can come together culturally, we can share best practice, we can share our experiences. And again, that's why for us, Fuse fitted the bill. It's about conversations with all of our subject matter experts, no matter where they sit. So the final element really to sort of continue along that line, thinking about the sort of the cultural idea, is when we were around here last year and we were asking all of the different providers, we want an LMS that does social. We want an LMS that has a conversation around the learning. We want to continue conversations beyond the classroom environment. And many of the providers said, yeah, no worries, we can do that. Yeah, that's not a problem. Here's your LMS, here's your SCORM course, your Click Next course. So I'm saying, well, what about asking a question? Oh, yeah, they can do that. You come out of there, and you go over here and you do the social part separately. And for me, that just didn't work. That's no different than having an injection education workshop and then a phone conference 6 months later. It needs to be seamless, it needs to be continuous. We need to actually mirror what's being done in private lives. We need to have that kind of, that Facebook, that YouTube, that type of environment where people can genuinely have a real conversation. So I didn't really believe them, to be honest, when they said, yeah, we do social. Because they didn't do it the way that, we thought that we needed it to be done. So we get to the stage where we've got, we saw earlier, our Fuse platform. And the way that this works is entirely like all social networks, social media that you'll have recognized already. Along the top there we've got our icon which always finds you to go home. We've got along the top the search bar, so anyone can look for anything at point of need. I need to know how to pack a box, or I need to know how to have a difficult conversation with a customer. They can just search for it. If they can't find it, they can ask a question, or if they found the answer themselves, they already have that information, they can upload it to share it with other people. And better still, one thing that this platform does that the others didn't do, bearing in mind we were on quite a tight budget, is it allows recording. So you can open that record button, which will then give you a window, and inside that window it will record whatever's on your screen. So we have a bespoke system we run our relocations through. Nobody else sort of has that around, it's bespoke to us. How do we therefore get learning out about that? Sizing that window open, this is how you, I don't know, enter a customer number, or this is how you record an invoice. And you can actually use that software because it's built in. Whereas with any other provider, we had to buy that separately. And we like the fact that it doesn't have to be me with a bought separately package. It can be whoever's in whatever location saying, I've worked out a really good thing on our system, you can do X, Y, Z. And so one example we had was at a recent conference of ours, somebody came up to us and said, I've got a really good way of working within our system. Can you share it with everyone? And we said, no, we can't share it, but you can share it. So he recorded a screencast using the record function, and he put it out there, he shared it globally, and he had about 260 views within the first week. And he also had a lot of comments. There was a lot of conversations going on about it. Well, how did you find that? I think it works this way better. Have you tried this one? And that conversation is with that learning. And he then posted to say, do you know what, guys? The comments and the likes, he said it really validates what I've actually tried to share with you, and I really appreciate it. So there's that whole element of him as an individual employee feeling so much more worthy as an employee, as part of a family. And you know, I personally don't see where we could get that anywhere else. So we've got our platform. I just want to step back from having got to our end product here to tell you a little bit about how we came about it. We walked in last year. You would have all walked in. You've seen the pink stand? You can't miss it, can you? It's lurid. Steve, change your colour. The clouds kind of parted for us. We'd been talking for so long about 70-20-10, about how we're going to do things differently, and nobody really was understanding. So we go and we sit down and we listen to one of Steve's talks, and instantly we suddenly felt at home. We felt like, you know, they were the ones, they got it. We sat, we listened, we giggled, we thought absolutely this is the one. Now, you know, if you're still looking around the show and you're not getting that, you're not getting that excited feeling, then I would urge you to actually start questioning your providers, to start questioning what you're trying to achieve. Because certainly there's nothing more exciting than actually marrying up with a supplier that you really do feel at home with. There's not every supplier I would be sitting up here talking about, okay? So we got to the stage where we met Steve. That guy thinks more than, oops, we've gone back one. He thinks, I don't know, in a way that no one imagines, because I tell him he's got spaghetti in his head, and you just pull a strand and you get an idea. And if you're looking for something that's new, that's different, then that's the guy to talk to. Why is that? Why do I even care enough to come up and tell you this? Well, the reason is because we want to do something differently. If we always do what we've always done, we are, as a profession, we're always going to get what we've always got. Who is pushing the boundaries here? Who is trotting out the same as everyone else? Who is trying to change what we do as an L&D professional, as a HR professional? Who's trying to make it better? Well, I'd like to be somebody that tries to make it better, and that's why I want to align myself with other people who are trying to make it better. Upstairs in the conference they're having right now, they're questioning the way that we do things. They're trying to actually look at stuff. I don't know if any of you saw the Twitter feed yesterday. Kirkpatrick's is turning on its head. They're saying do level 4 before level 1. This is what we should all be doing. We should all be challenging ourselves to actually look at the status quo and do things better, do things differently. And that's why we needed to move away from injection education. And I'm really, really pleased to have found somebody like Steve that could help us do that. So that's all I really wanted to talk to you about today. Thanks very much for listening. I'm happy to take any questions if you've got any.